It's my pleasure to be here today to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart. So, come to the well is the topic of the day. Come to the water. What a wonderful topic that our committee has chosen for our day together. To get into our discussion of water wells, let's begin at the very beginning. Genesis 1, verses 1 and 2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Wow. The Spirit of God was hovering over the water. The earth didn't even have any kind of form yet, but God was protecting the water. That surely proves just how foundational water really is. We know that the water of baptism is foundational for our spiritual souls, and also that water itself is foundational for our physical bodies. We cannot live without water. And more specifically, we cannot live without clean water. All of us on this earth do not have access to clean and safe water. That brings me to the connection that our NTNL Synod has with the church in Sierra Leone, the ELCSL, Evangelical Lutheran Church of Sierra Leone. Our Synod has long been supportive of our fellow Lutherans there, and many of you are familiar with programs of support that we've had over the years. I think everyone knows that water is important for life. There's nothing earth-shattering about that. Water is an obvious need. Of course, it has to be clean and safe water to drink. Now, before I learned more about the many drastic impacts on life of having only filthy water to drink, I thought that having clean water was all about drinking a glass of clear, safe water. I had no idea what else was involved. Should be about just drinking water, right? But this isn't the water available to them. Here's an example of bad water. Now, I could have artificially manufactured some bad water, and I'm kind of ashamed to say that I actually got this out of my backyard when I poured the water from my bird bath into this bottle. Well, that tells me I should be kinder to my birds, for one. But the point is, birds are in that water, squirrels are in that water, and whatever else can climb up to my bird bath is in that water. Okay, so maybe it's not oxen and cows and goats and crocodiles from that water, but I think you get the point. Can you imagine walking miles and miles to bring this home to your family? So clean water is about more than just this. I started to learn more of what is actually connected to clean water. Clean water is the foundation of all sustainable development in any poor area of the world. There are about 4.5 billion people in the developing world. And most of them are getting richer at a rate higher than at any time in history. Well, that would be good news. But nearly 1 billion of that 4.5 billion, nearly 1 billion of them are trapped in extreme poverties due to civil wars, lack of natural resources, and bad governance. The poor do not have the ability by themselves to get out of their situation. In that bottom billion of people, about a third of those about 330 million, which is also about the population of the United States of America, live on about $1 a day. Can you imagine? Because I cannot. Even if they pool their resources, these communities will never be able to afford a well for safe water. There's no way. So how do we change things? There is a distinct stepping stone approach, each step building on the step before, and the first step is water. Then you have these: hygiene and sanitation, community health, education, the economy. I guarantee you that I did not understand each of those steps. I just didn't get the ripple effect of the effect that the lack of access to water has. But it all totally makes sense when you look at each step. Now, clean water paves the way for then hygiene and sanitation. The simple act of washing hands with soap reduces deaths by diarrhea by 40%. Safe sanitation reduces death by another 30%. Yet more than 2 billion people on our planet don't have access to even one adequate latrine. Open outdoor defecation is the common practice, and it's making people die. So improving community health is almost impossible without safe drinking water. Nearly 90% of all the diseases in the world are caused by a combination of unsafe drinking water, inadequate sanitation, and poor hygiene. Half of the hospital beds in the world are filled with people suffering from a water-related condition. Well, then we get to education. I never would have understood how clean water had anything to do with education. I can't remember how it affected my education. I just went to school, had a drink at the water fountain. I didn't think about that. But it didn't take long for it to be obvious to me. Children who are sick from waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid, which I've never had, can't go to school. They miss way too many class days. Poor health directly reduces cognitive potential and indirectly undermines schooling through absenteeism, attention deficits, and early dropout. Most of the children missing school are girls. Why would that be? Well, they often have the daily chore of walking miles to collect water, and then they can't go to school. Then if they are in school, they do not have access to decent toilets when they reach adolescence, and they are too shy to talk openly about their needs. Teachers have learned that when a girl says her stomach hurts, to just let her go home. Sometimes they don't return, ever. One teacher described not being able to keep kids in class. He said, it's not that these kids skip school or that they get sent home for misbehavior. Since our pump spoiled, we have no water at all. All day long, the kids look out the window, looking on the busy road. When they see a street vendor come by selling water, the kids run out to buy or beg for water. We can't get them to stay. The kids are getting water from vendors in 100 to 300 milliliter plastic baggies, each with its own price. The teacher fears the traffic on the road, but more than that, he fears the water that the kids are buying because he's pretty sure it's coming from the river. Here's a baggie of 100 milliliters of water. Here's one of 300 milliliters of water. That's a little bit more than half a cup, and this is a little bit more than 1 cup. Can you imagine your children or your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews or children that you have mentored over the years walking out of their school classroom to cross a road to go beg for or buy some water? That's maybe, I don't know, 3 swallows? Can you imagine? So does water have anything to do with education? Every single day. Then when I was told that the lack of access to clean water affected the economy of a nation and economy of individual families, again, I wondered how that worked. Well, it turns out that if everyone in the world had access to basic water and sanitation services, the reduction in diarrheal diseases alone would save the health sector $11.6 billion in treatment cost. And people would gain over 5.6 billion productive days a year. Just in sub-Saharan Africa, where Sierra Leone is located, 40 billion hours of labor are wasted every year just carrying water long distances. Water is essential for growing personal vegetable gardens at home, having food businesses, providing laundry services, and coming up with many other businesses that people could do from home. Women who aren't walking to get clean water can have a job, while the children who aren't also walking to get water are in school. Life changes dramatically. The economy changes dramatically, and water is the key. The good news is that there is more than enough water in the world for domestic purposes, agriculture, and industry, and the payoff for its more equitable distribution is great. Living Water International's Gary Evans puts it this way, and I love his quote. We're in a world where there are 900 million people barely treading water, and the water's too low for them to reach the ladder. They don't need a boat. They don't need a helicopter to rescue them. They just need a little boost so they can reach the ladder. Then they can climb out on their own. Clean water provides that boost. And if you want to reach out and give that boost, and you want to do it in Jesus' name, then you're in the right place. Remember where we started, Genesis 1. The Spirit of God hovered over the water. The Spirit of God hovers over us as well, prompting us, as our church slogan tells us, to do God's work with our hands. So let's see what we can do.